Hey guys, Kakarot197 again. This time with a review of the 1/100 scale Master Grade Gundam Mk.II Titan's Color version 2.0 HD color version in 4K. And this thing is of course from the Zeta Gundam anime series on Blu-ray. So what does this HD color version mean? Well, the most obvious change is that the grayish black of the regular version has now been replaced with a stylish, shiny piano black, which is also why I'm wearing gloves. And it's also because of this amazing black that it's harder to see what happened to the other colors. But when we put it next to the regular version, you should be able to see that the HD color version simply means the piano black and glossy coat version, or the shiny version if you prefer. And since we have this really nice finish, what about the nub marks? Well, they're not nearly as bad as I was expecting, because underneath the shiny coat, we still have the exact same color. But there is one more thing that makes this thing HD. In addition to the regular peel-off marking stickers, we also get 2 sheets of water slides. We get one with normal white numbers and one really amazing shiny one that goes really well together with your shiny Mk.II. And combine that with the amazing proportions of the Mk.II and we get a truly amazing looking machine. And with the use of some stickers for the eyes, the front camera and the back camera, it's mostly color accurate. You will need some red for the insides of the main thrusters and the side skirts, black for the insides of the other thrusters, gray or black for the vents on the face, depending on which one you prefer, and then finally green for the sub-sensors on the chest. The good news is that you could actually cut these from the provided sticker sheet, which then also makes me wonder why they just didn't include them as stickers in the first place. But hey, even straight out of the box, we're getting a really good-looking, menacing Mk.II that now has a new stylish flair to it. And its beauty continues underneath the armor. It might not be the best 2.0 inner frame ever in terms of functionality or how much it actually covers, but the detail of that panoramic cockpit in combination with those working chrome pistons really does it for me. And it's got some really cool mesh pipes to add to the overall mechanical feel of it. But it's also not without its flaws. More about that in a second. First, let's have a look at the weapons. Since the Mk.II didn't have head-mounted Vulcans, it instead got the Vulcan pod. It's mostly that beautiful piano black, and for color accuracy, we only need one metallic green sticker for the sensor. It features a movable antenna, because why not, and simply clicks onto the head. It is quite bulky for the head in my opinion, but this is how it should be. Next up we have the beam sabers, and to pull them out, first you have to pull them forwards to disconnect them from the peg on the back, and then you can pull them out. Believe me, this mechanism allows you to pull off some really dynamic poses. Of course, we also get 2 clear pink beam sabers to go along with them, and the beam sabers fit extremely well into the hands. Then for some more ranged power, we get the beam rifle. But despite looking all nice and shiny, we do get a seam line through most of it. On the flip side, it has a movable handle, and you can remove the E-pack if you try hard enough. But the beam rifle does fit perfectly into the hands, and it is completely color accurate if you apply the sticker for the sensor, and just as with the eyes, there is a clear piece behind it. Should you want some more ammo for your beam rifle, or if you lose one of the E-packs, we've got this fancy shield that stores 2 more completely functional E-packs. And if you unlock it, you can also slide it into its collapsed mode, where it again locks into place. To connect it to the side or the back of either arm, we get this brace that simply pegs into the arm, and then you simply slide the shield into it. But now let's put our beam rifle away for some heavier firepower. To do this, you simply collapse the scope, and then you can store it on either one of the side skirts. Then we can move on to the Hyper Bazooka, and again we get a stunning piece of weaponry with those HD colors. But this time, the seam lines aren't nearly as bad. I'm even fairly certain that this was the first bazooka that wasn't just 2 halves slapped together. And thanks to the moving handle and the pegs, it fits snugly into either hand, no matter what the pose. And then the only thing left to do to make the Hyper Bazooka perfect is apply the sticker on the sensor. And just as with the beam rifle, the cartridge can be removed, although it can be a pain to get back in there. And we again get a spare cartridge, and this one can be stored on either side skirt. Then the bazooka itself can also be stored. You simply open up this hatch on the back skirt and pop it in. And then the final accessory that we get is this tiny but nicely detailed standing pilot. So not only are we getting the Mk.II with a lot of equipment and features, but it can also store all of that equipment at the same time. This is something I would love to see more in Gunpla. But before we move on to the articulation, there is one more accessory that we have to talk about that you don't get, but that you can use with this thing. When we have a look at the backpack, there is a panel that we can remove, and that is an attachment point for the G Defensor to turn this thing into the Super Gundam. And talking about accessories that we don't get, two more that I would highly recommend are 1, a master grade compatible action base, and 2, a cleaning cloth to keep that black in pristine condition. Then moving on to the articulation, the head is on a nice double ball joint, although the bottom ball joint is a bit loose, which is quite unexpected for a kit with extra finish. The shoulders then go a bit backwards and forwards, but really nicely upwards together with the arm. And then for some reason, this piece also moves. The arms rotate around below the shoulder and bend at the elbow on 2 joints with some interesting armor separation going on. Onto the hands then, and don't let that moving wrist guard fool you. It is just a single ball joint. What is a cool extra is that hinge and the fact that all of the fingers are on their own individual ball joint, but only the thumb and the index finger are actually molded separately. In the middle of the waist, we get another ball joint with a good range of movement and a swivel that goes about this far. And we get even more ball joints on the backpack, both for the top and the bottom thrusters. And just look at that mesh pipe. It really completes the look. What was also kind of surprising to me was that the bottom thrusters were really the only joints where I noticed any kind of stiffness because of the coating. The front skirts are also on ball joints and give the legs very nice forwards movement, and for having a solid back skirt, the backwards movement isn't too bad either, and the same goes for the outwards movement. The legs also rotate around all the way, but this is where we run into a small issue. The little peg here is simply too thin, too short, and barely is enough to keep the leg up. It's not too big of an issue for the Mk.II, but it is for certain remolds. At the very least, it makes it easy for me to rip off the legs to show you this extra joint to give the legs more forwards and backwards movement. Again, a thing that works fine for the Mk.II, but not for remolds with thicker legs. What also works really well for the Mk.II are the knees and their absolutely glorious armor separation. Even the shin armor moves and is connected to the hinge joint of the foot. But in terms of articulation for the feet, it will be the ball joint that takes care of most of the movement and also takes care of the piston movement. Now, rotation is of course a bit more limited because of these pistons. And before I forget, the ankle guard of course moves, and we also get a nice toe joint. And then finally we get a really cool 2-part opening cockpit, revealing the tiny little pilot inside. So overall, while the articulation might not be the best ever, it has aged very well over the years and still manages to look extremely impressive in action poses, thanks in part to its gimmicks like the sliding armor and all of those amazing accessories. Which then brings us to the inevitable question of, do you want to buy this? Or more specifically, do you want to buy this version of the Mk.II? Because for 3,500 yen, the standard Titans Mk.II is just an absolute hell yes. Overall great engineering, cool features, amazing proportions, a lot of accessories, and all of that for a really low price. Even 14 years after its release, that is an almost unbeatable combination. But now back to the high definition version. For 4,000 yen, we get everything I just mentioned before, plus water slides and extra coating. And I would say that both are totally worth the extra 500 yen if glossy finishes are your thing. I have seen much bigger price hikes for way worse results, especially when it comes to the nub marks. And I do want to say that on video, especially during close-ups, they look way worse than they look when you just have your Mark II on your shelf. But then the final remaining problem is that this is a limited edition. However, it seems that they haven't really gone up in price that much. And even if you have to pay a bit over 4,000 yen, like 5,000 yen or 5,500 yen, I still feel that it is completely worth it. Then for some size comparisons, first of all, here is next to the old Master Grade Jim Quell, and again next to the regular Gundam Mk.II version 2.0. And if you look closely at the abdomen of the high definition version, you can even see me grabbing one of the kits for the next size comparison shot, the J-Gun, alongside the Marasai. And no, it doesn't come with that sniper rifle, but it does look amazing with it. And then finally, here is next to two other shiny kits, the extremely shiny Akatsuki and the smooth honey golden Hyakushiki version 2.0. And even though all three are what we would consider shiny kits, they're all very different shiny kits. But the one thing all three have in common is that I would highly recommend all of them. And that is all for this very shiny review. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope all of you watching have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.